Welcome to Suppose, where authors discuss the extraordinary. I'm James V. Hassell,
And I'm Sarah Jaune.
and this week the topic is Suppose exorcisms are real.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I I don't want to call it a fun one, but
I
because
don't know, it could be interesting.
I'll definitely call it interesting. I kind of went for this one because just how interesting the cases have been.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the most part, too many things were blamed on demons,
Mm-hmm.
spirits. I don't know which one's the correct form to go here.
Demon.
Malevolent beings.
If you're talking about a Catholic exorcism, which is really the exorcism standard, gold standard as it were,
Hmm.
then it would be a demon. And most of the
True.
Christian ones are um, also go with demon. I do not know about other religions.
Well, see, even if you drill in deeper in that, though, you have demons who have legions of spirits.
True.
And then
Hmm.
I have heard of that being put to some blame. I think the major ones you get the higher level demons because demons have a ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
I've looked into that a lot.
Uh-huh. Of course
I'm
you have.
I'm fascinated by the idea of it, but
Okay.
I don't want to go completely solely Catholicism here, just
Okay.
because just because really,
Uh,
I think demonic possession should be a universal thing.
I think it is, but hilariously, I mean, most people are like, you have to go to a Catholic priest.
Hmm.
Now, I've discussed this with my brother-in-law, who is a pastor, and he, is adamant that, you don't have to be clergy in order to do an exorcism. And um, my understanding from my own faith is that I agree with that. But the Catholic Church insists that you have to be clergy. And what I suspect is that although they're like trying to keep job stability in their, you know,
Hmm.
dwindling churches, that it's also to them something that they would see as a protection, because if you cast out a demon, you're not destroying the demon, it's going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And it might just attach to the person who cast it out.
Hmm.
So that was, I think, the thought process behind it. So you have to be very in their heads. You're a laity, a person who's not of the clergy would not necessarily be prepared in order to handle the situation.
Right.
So,
And see, and then you have people like me, the faithless, who can't quite comprehend the idea
hmm
of being possessed, except for the fact that, let's be upfront, a lot of it was, schizophrenia or epilepsy.
Sure. I mean, but that's not the case now, because
Correct.
the Catholic Church, especially the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
is if you want an exorcism, man, you have to jump through a bazillion and a half hoops in order to get one.
And one of those hoops is psychiatry
hmm
to whittle it out if that's the root cause or not.
Yeah, you have to convince a psychiatrist that you're not, you don't have a legitimate, not a legitimate, I don't mean it to say that way. You
Hmm.
don't have a non-supernaturally caused mental illness.
Right. Which, to be fair, not the hardest thing to convince a psychiatrist. You don't.
No. Yeah.
It's not the hardest of sciences or
No.
medical fields. Not
No.
to say anything against psychiatrists, they do some great work. But
As it's been said before, it's an applied science, which means it's not a hard science. It doesn't have a, you know, quantifiable, measured standard of outcome in
yeah,
every that would be reproducible in every circumstance.
right.
So,
You can't test mental illness like you can cancer at the moment.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. You pick all these topics of things that you don't actually believe in, which
Hmm.
is
Well, here's the thing: is I don't believe in possession to such effect, and I have my reasons, and I'll go into few of them.
hmm
But there's these cases
hmm some of
that
them are really friggin' fascinating.
that are fascinating and defy my expectation of reality.
hmm
For instance, I pulled up a list of a few of these. So you have like Clara Sell in 1906. I don't know if that's how you
She was
say
the
her
Emily
name.
Rose.
No,
Kate.
that's the next one I'll get to.
Okay.
Clara
Go ahead.
Sell was before that in South Africa.
Okay.
Sell prayed and made a pact with a Satan, no one knows why, when she was 16.
Okay.
Days later, Sell was overtaken by strange impulses. She was repulsed by religious artifacts like crucifixes.
Mm-hmm.
She could speak and understand several languages of which she had no previous knowledge.
Cool.
She became clairvoyant regarding the thoughts and histories of people around her.
Even cooler.
Nuns who attended to Sell reported that she produced horrible animalistic sounds. She also levitated up to 5 feet in the air.
Exciting.
Eventually, 2 priests were brought in to perform an exorcism. Sell tried to strangle one of the priests with his stole, and over 170 people witnessed her levitating as the priest read scripture.
Good Lord. Seriously. What year was this?
1906.
Wow.
Over the course of 2 days, the rites of exorcism successfully drove the dark spirits from her body.
Wow.
That's a lot of witnesses.
That's a lot of witnesses.
And that's, I'm not going to say pre the time you can fake it, but
Wow.
faking levitating 5 feet in 1906.
Yeah. I mean, people were pretty naive still.
They were naive,
I
and
could see them faking
you
that.
had, P.T. Barnum is
Yeah.
somewhere in that time area, and a lot of mysticism going on.
Yeah.
And you had Houdini debunking a lot of it.
Yes. See, I believe in them, and I'm sitting here like, eh.
Yeah. I was saying.
Yeah.
170 people. I don't even, how did they witness it? I need to look into the story more.
Why would they do a public exorcism?
That's what I'm saying is how did...
That sounds odd.
Wasn't public? Or there needs to be a story behind this.
Yeah.
Which, I'll look into it one day. It's not going to be today, though. But, interesting nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, people have witnessed stuff. So you keep going. I have one to tell you about that that was interesting. But maybe you'll have already found it.
I was going to say, that's all I had for that one. Next one I had was Annalise Michel. Or Michelle. I don't know how to say anything in French. Wasn't she French? This is the Emily Rose girl.
Yeah.
Which, let's see. Reading through all the crap. 1973, became suicidal, spurned all religious artifacts, drank her own urine, and began to hear voices.
Sorry, just gross.
Yeah. Medicine did nothing to help the girl, who begged her family to bring in a priest because she believed she was possessed by demons. Though her request was rejected, 2 local priests secretly began treating her with exorcism rites. Meanwhile, her parents stopped treating her epilepsy and mental disorders. She was dead within a year.
Yeah, she starved herself to death, I think.
Pretty sure she did. I think she ended up weighing something like 43 pounds, 83 pounds.
Good Lord.
It was an extreme case of basically just starvation.
Yeah.
Except I think she was trying to eat herself at one point. I could be wrong on that one. It's a horrible case.
She was really ill.
But yeah.
Whatever was wrong with her, she was very ill. So.
She was very ill. Didn't she also have psychiatrists involved? And they were like, fuck, the medicine's not working.
Yeah.
Nothing is working. It did go to trial for negligent homicide.
I remember reading about that one after the movie came out. Yeah, that one was really sad.
Which, that one did it. And like it said, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but treatment for schizophrenia did nothing in this case.
I mean, yeah.
But
sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't. Plus, this was 1973.
Yeah.
Treatments have evolved since then. Because weren't lobotomies still a thing in 1970s?
Yeah. I don't know about 1970.
It might have ended earlier, but
it was in France, so.
True.
Wasn't it in France?
The case, yes.
Yeah. So so I don't know what the medical history when they started and stopped doing stuff in France. So
Yeah. I feel like they might have stopped earlier than we did.
yeah,
We lag sometimes.
we do. We're
We
so special.
we create the best technology in the world, but we,
Hmm.
we lag behind on so many things. Possibly as
Sadly
a good
true.
thing, just to be
Yeah.
honest. Just
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know what to think about that one.
even the movie, which did
The
uh,
movie was good.
the movie was great. I love that movie, but I'm fully aware going into it they probably exaggerate to their own ends.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So even with that grain of salt, it's like because the movie did what the movie should have done, which was kind of explore both sides of it.
Hmm.
Like, yes, here is this sick girl. Yes, here is this possessed girl.
Hmm.
And then you get
Yeah.
to kind of play with which one you think is which.
Yeah. I don't know.
And it gets to that point of it. I don't. It's there's not that much documentation on certain mental illnesses that allow you to completely destroy yourself in that way.
Hmm.
Like there had to be something major going on that's just a complete anomaly, which
Yeah.
could be the case.
I mean,
Or
it's yeah. There's anything that's possible.
or
I
it could have been demons.
It could have been demons. So I could go either way on that one.
Hmm.
And if it was today that it happened, I'd lean more towards it being not mental illness. Personally, I would because especially the Catholic Church is very careful with
Hmm.
who and what they do.
Well, that's the
So
other part of the
they have
case
a
is
really
the
bad
Catholic.
reputation.
They rejected it at the time.
Yeah,
The priest
they
in that
did.
case went solo on it.
Yeah. I mean, he must have believed, but anybody can be turned into we're really persuadable as humans.
Hmm.
So if he believed it, then evidence be damned, and he'd just go with it
Yeah.
because it seemed like the right thing to do.
Hmm.
And sometimes it is the right thing to ignore the Catholic Church,
Well, yeah.
because just sometimes they're wrong.
Yeah, quite a few times.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to
Open
be
your
nice.
library, Catholic Church. I just want to say that.
Yes,
Give us the books.
seriously, hoarding is not nice.
No,
It's
it's
a
not.
mental illness.
It
You
really
should
is.
stop. Yeah.
Let's see. There's the case of, what was her name? Julia. This was 2008, where Dr. Richard Gallagher, a board certified psychiatrist and associate professor of clinical psychiatry at New York Medical College,
Hmm.
documented the case of a patient nicknamed Julia, whom he deduced was indeed possessed by demons.
Interesting.
It's rare that a scientist and psychiatrist would acknowledge the possibility of possession. Typically, doctors think that possession is either fraudulent or a result of mental illness.
Hmm.
Dr. Gallagher personally observed items flying around the room, Julia levitating off the bed,
Okay.
speaking in tongues,
Oh, goodness.
and knowing things about people around her that she could not have possibly known.
Well,
Here is an excerpt from Gallagher's statement.
hmm
Quote, periodically, in our presence, Julia would go into a trance state of recurring nature, writes Gallagher. Mentally troubled individuals often dissociate, but Julia's trances were accompanied by an unusual phenomenon. Out of her mouth would come various threats, taunts, and scatological language. Phrases like, leave her alone, you idiot, she's ours. Leave, you imbecile priest, or just leave. The tone
hmm
of this voice differed remarkably from Julia's own, and it varied, sometimes sounding guttural and vaguely masculine. At other points, high pitched. Most of her comments during these trances, or at the subsequent exorcisms, displayed a marked contempt for anything religious or sacred.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's a doctor's report on how this went
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
I'm not a big authority figure, Or
No.
I don't care he's a doctor.
No.
But it's something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he had a reason to make any of this up.
Was he religious beforehand?
It's a good
That would be my
question.
first question.
Yeah, which I think I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Just guessing, uh, based on my understanding of human nature. Someone doesn't see something strange and then go, "Oh, she's possessed."
Yeah, I mean, if everything happened as he said it happened,
Hmm.
how else are you going to explain levitation?
I don't know. There's
So
been
if
some
that,
cases of certain kind of not exactly levitations, but like if it's a complete levitation, it you couldn't really explain that one other than optical illusion.
yeah,
If it's a arched levitation, which happens sometimes,
yeah, where the body arches up, you mean?
hmm
Okay,
you that can happen in weird
yeah,
ways with certain muscle locking up, joints
okay,
locking up,
yeah,
which is rare, but it is a link with schizophrenia.
is
Schizophrenia can
it?
lead into your body locking into weird positions, and
I
just
did not know that.
I didn't either until I was looking up schizophrenia one day.
All right, interesting
Yeah,
and horrible, but interesting.
very.
Okay,
Which leads more credence to the
yeah, but I
possession
mean, if
is
she actually
schizophrenia.
levitated off the bed,
Well,
if she actually did that,
yeah.
if that actually happened, even if I was not religious, I might be like, Uh, either she's possessed or I'm crazy, so I'm gonna go with possessed.
Well, see, me, I'd be even if I saw someone levitate, I would just immediately be like, "Holy shit, we're doing ESP and telekinesis now. We
Yeah.
finally evolved." Yes. I wouldn't immediately go to demons. Just
Fair enough. Well, the whole speaking in tongues thing and or not speaking in tongues, but speaking in different languages thing is probably also pretty creepy.
possibly, but there's been documented cases of that
There have.
happening where it's just
It's
like
crazy.
people go into coma, wake up, and speak nothing but a foreign language that they do not know how to speak.
I know. I've seen that. That is nuts. I cannot wait till they figure out why that happened. I hope I'm not dead before they figure that
Yeah.
out.
Well, I don't even know if we can. It's just something unfathomable. But
Yeah, and it's so rare that it's not like you can have tons of test subjects to
yeah.
experiment with.
So, or unless you want to say a benign spirit of some sort, maybe possess this person that was in a coma.
Mm, yeah.
I mean, if we're going with spirits, then why not?
Yeah, I lean not towards there being many benign spirits. Not to say that there wouldn't,
Well, why
if
not?
not possible, because why don't I? Because it does not seem like, okay, if there are benign spirits,
Hmm.
then the world would be absolutely completely full of them.
Hmm. Well, if they are.
And you would see more breakthroughs of people spotting hauntings and all that other stuff. It would be you wouldn't be able to walk without tripping on a ghost.
But I mean, if they're benign and they're a ghost, then they wouldn't be triggering anything.
That's not necessarily true. Because see, they're
I mean, it
in
could
the
be though.
haunting field. Okay, so but in the field of people doing paranormal research,
They're not doing
run into
research.
things.
I'm just gonna
Okay,
throw that out there.
there's things like a residual haunting, which they claim is energy just repeating itself of something that happened.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, but
I
I'm just gonna throw this out there. They're just making up bullshit, so I can make up bullshit too.
okay. Well, you don't actually want to hear what I have to say, so
No,
we'll
I
just keep
mean,
going.
I mean, All I'm
I
doing is clarifying that it's not research. There's no reason
no,
to
I know it's
believe
not
what they're
research.
saying.
I know,
So,
but
so you dismissing the idea that benign spirits could be everywhere because paranormal research is the point I was getting to.
okay. So the I I don't feel like ghosts are absolutely everywhere. It would be billions upon billions of people, and their
Well,
spirit just
it,
like floating around.
it
Now,
wouldn't be that many, by the
because
way.
not why not?
Uh,
Throughout history?
yeah, throughout history, I mean, the from what we know, like the human population just a few thousand years ago reached like 300 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's grown tremendously since then,
Okay.
but I don't know. It there's more people alive today than I think were ever have been dead.
Okay. Well, it's still billions of people
Possibly.
because we hit a billion plus already.
We're at 7 billion
Several.
now.
Yes, exactly. We're at 7 billion now, so we probably have I don't even want to think about it.
Right.
And we can't really know or care. So, but when people who say, so if you believe in this stuff, which you don't, but hear me out here.
I am.
If you believe in this stuff and you are sensitive to it, then you would be running into spirits all over the place.
Okay.
And it just does not happen. They're not all over the place.
And here's my counter.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps there are billions of spirits out there and no one is sensitive to it.
Okay. What does it matter?
That's what I'm saying is it may not matter if there's some kind of afterlife or consciousness after the physical body is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's nothing to suggest people would be able to know about it. But if, I don't know, some great anger, resentment was attached to someone, then you could go with hauntings. If someone saw like a body in a coma and's like, huh, nothing's in that body. I want to see if I can cozy up in there. And then they wake up and they don't know anything, but they can just speak a language they've never heard before.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say that couldn't be a possibility. I just lean towards there not being more benign spirits hanging around than malevolent ones.
I don't know. I don't see a good
That is
argument
my
either way.
personal.
Yeah.
Well, this is all bullshit to you anyway, because you don't believe in it, so it doesn't matter.
Don't brush me off that easily because I have no idea what happens when you die.
Well,
I just,
fair enough, but
I just don't have a hardcore belief in any theory.
fair enough. So I just don't see there being, but I believe in an afterlife. I believe we go somewhere, so I just don't see us hanging around. If you
Okay, but
don't have to hang around, why would you hang around? And
well, here's
the
the
people who get stuck are the ones who are stuck in life.
according to Christianity, then everyone would be stuck here anyway
I know.
until the rapture,
I understand.
which
I
evidently
understand.
happened Saturday.
Yes, it did happen on Saturday. Worst rapture ever.
I don't know, was it? Could have been the best rapture ever. We might be in the tribulations now. Just no one got taken because you wore
We all
poly
suck.
nylon or cotton nylon blends. Like if you go by the rules of the Bible, no one was getting taken anyway.
Okay, reasonable. But, I mean, it's actually, yeah, it's not quite that cut and dry in the Bible. It's, yeah.
It depends on which part of the Bible you're looking at.
Yeah, it does. And, they contradict each other a little bit in a lot of places.
Quite a few places.
So, okay. But anyway, like, I see the contradiction. It doesn't make me unhappy. I'm just gonna I'm perfectly willing to go with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
Which
religion makes me happy. Therefore, I'm going to stick with it.
oh yeah, nothing wrong with or nothing against religious people. It's whatever. I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
It doesn't. So but that's my personal belief. I just don't think that And also because, I've listened to people, you have a great explanation as to why people have near-death experiences, but the people who have near-death experiences, they go on to another place and then they end up coming back. So as somebody who's never been dead, I'm more inclined to not brush off somebody who has been dead, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they've actually been there, so, I might be like, well, okay, you might have more skin in this game than I do. So.
Yeah. Or not. Brain
Or
freaks
not.
out, man.
I know, and maybe that's okay. And you can also go to, it's the right word, existential.
Mm-hmm.
We can be really existential here and say that, does it really matter if their brain believes that they went there, whether they did or not?
Yeah.
Does it really matter to their reality?
Which that's the other thing is, I mean, because even if you're looking at science, you can't nail down consciousness. It's not a part of the brain.
Nope.
It's not the whole of the brain, which is really weird.
No.
It's not the whole of the body.
Nope.
And through meditation, through really weird critical thinking, through drugs, through many, many ways, through near death, maybe, you can dissociate yourself from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of weird, mind-boggling. Especially if you've ever been in a position of touching death in a way. I've been there multiple times. Which is not fun.
Nope.
Or even, so we're discussing brains and exorcisms and spirits. But with the consciousness thing, have you ever been like in a car wreck?
Not a real, like a fender bender's not a real one.
Like straight scary car wreck?
No.
Okay.
I'm a really awesome driver.
So am I, except I wasn't when I was 15.
Well, details.
Yeah. Which, that I wasn't driving legally because I was 15. I had a learner's permit. And there was an adult in the car with me, but we'll ignore that part. So I'm driving home and I'm like, take a back road because I got to drive and it was fun. And I'm going too fast on a curvy back road that's recently been rained on, and I hit a bump that then led into a puddle on a curve. So I started fishtailing, and then it slid out from me, and I did a 180 into a ditch, and I got to experience time dilation.
Okay.
Do you know time dilation?
I do not.
Time dilation is when either something's happening that's really, really stressful or life-threatening in a way, and time slows down.
Okay.
Or your perception of time slows down.
Right, because time doesn't actually slow down.
Exactly. But to you,
although
it does.
Time is a social construct.
Time is a very, very special social construct.
Yeah.
But our brains have the brain has the ability to make you perceive time differently.
Okay.
This also goes back to Einstein, who made the comparison of being tortured versus talking to a beautiful lady, I think was his example.
Okay.
In one instant, time feels like it takes forever. In the other instant, it blinks by. So take that to a more extreme example, and that's time dilation.
Okay.
It's where that last second drags out, and it feels like an hour.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the brain can do that. The brain can do languages, evidently.
Yeah.
It gets to the point in these levitations. Were they arching and it looked like levitation? Maybe.
But if they were actually off the table, and that's the problem. So here's one that was from recent, and this one is not like clear cut because you know he just climbed a wall like a spider, but
Mm-hmm.
it was in a hospital, and a doctor and a nurse and somebody else, like a social worker, witnessed this kid climb the wall like Spider-Man and stick to the wall.
I think I heard about this one.
Yeah. And I'm like, that is really freaking cool. How the hell did he do that?
Yeah.
And the natural answer could be, it's demonic possession.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, how the hell did he do that? Like,
I don't know. Have you seen parkour kids? They can do some amazing things.
yeah. I mean, this kid was in a major psychotic episode, having all kinds of problems. So I just don't know. But I was like, that is really cool.
Well, that's also another instance, like the story you hear about the mom who's in a car wreck and then like lifts the car off her kid because the body just dumped everything into the muscles for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And it can happen. You can go past normal limits.
You can.
I think that I think that's one of the things the brain does. The brain is a limiter.
That makes sense.
So
I can see that.
Yeah, it's just so you don't burn your body out.
Well, you know, details.
Yeah. It's a good thing, but then certain times things can override that.
Yes.
So can a kid having an extreme psychotic break grip in ways he's not supposed to be able to? Maybe.
One of the people who witnessed this kid crawling on the walls and whatever had to have like crapped their pants.
Oh, definitely.
And that to me is so scary.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the other thing is what if, so I believe in demonic possession. I believe that I have seen this influencing people's lives. And, so I don't, even though I'm joking around, I don't dismiss this. You know, I take it seriously, even though I want to also look for what might possibly be happening that is, you know, explainable in other ways. But, you know, I mean, if somebody believes that they are possessed, then I don't know that it matters whether they are or not.
We'll see. That's where it comes down to,
like,
if the brain can do completely insane things.
Yeah.
On its own.
Which it can.
And
it can do some crazy things.
And a person thinks they are fully possessed by the essence of evil. Then maybe the brain can do amazing things in all the wrong kind of ways. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Which the idea, and this, I've noticed this a lot lately on a lot of things I've been witnessing. The idea, way more dangerous than if it is or isn't a thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But if it were real, because like I said, I don't dismiss it. I just look for the simpler answer.
I think in most cases it can be the simpler answer. And for most people, so if you believe in demons, so let's go on this if-then trail here.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go.
If you believe in this, then you probably also believe in God and heaven and all those other things. And you are possibly trying to convert other people into believing the same things that you do, and you would be, say, following the religious tendencies and all these other things. If you believe that, then you would be a target for the dark side, as it were. So for people who do not believe and want to see or experience or investigate it, I mean, they may never see anything at all because it's not worth the time. The demons might be like, well, they're already damned. I don't need to do anything against them. So I think that is a
Well, see,
but so let me finish this out, because if you believe in this, though, that also leaves you vulnerable and susceptible because you already believe. So it doesn't take much to push you into believing that you are possessed, whether you are or not.
I'm going to
So,
pick a couple of loopholes here.
sure.
The people already damned, wouldn't they be easier to possess, and then you would have an avenue and to get to damning people who believe?
That isn't, no, that's not the conventional thought, because if you don't, it's, the person who is an atheist, who is doing shit-tastic things and whatever, is not nearly as damaging as the one who proclaims to have faith and then is, like, out destroying people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't you possess on the weak or non-believer or whatever you want to call them, and then have them act upon the faithful?
No.
Why not?
No, and I don't think this is weakness. I think this is,
I mean, weak to possession. Is what I
okay.
meant.
So, but if you do not believe in something, then you're already not susceptible to it, because you just don't believe in it.
Yeah, but wouldn't that make you susceptible? For instance, take the flu. If I didn't believe the flu was a problem, and I didn't wash my hands, I would be susceptible to the flu.
Idea, a spiritual idea. It's not a germ.
But if it's a spiritual idea, and demons physically exist in some way, shape, or form, then everyone should be susceptible.
Maybe. But it doesn't seem to be that way.
It doesn't, which is part of the reason I don't believe.
Yeah, but so let me go back to this. Okay, so you had somebody like George W. Bush. So for all of his faults and whatever else he proclaimed to be and lived out a life as a Christian, right? Then you have our amazing president, Donald J. Trump, who, although he claims to be a Christian, absolutely is not. Nobody's buying that.
I mean,
if George W. Bush as a believer were able to be turned and to start acting in ways that were contrary to his faith and the faith of the people following him, that would be way more damaging than Trump being a womanizer who grabs women's crotches.
Is it though?
I think it is. But you're not looking at this from I am looking at this from the religious perspective.
So am I.
It matters more to me personally as a believer that somebody who is a believer is not acting like an asshat. The hypocrisy bothers me tremendously.
But Donald Trump, way more influential than George W. Bush.
No, I meant when he was in office.
Me too.
Okay. I'm trying to make an example and you're completely missing it, and I don't know how to.
I really am. Because to me, George Bush, hard evangelical following. Mm-hmm. If he started acting badly, they would just not like him. Whereas Donald Trump, who, despite everything wrong with him, sold a ton of hats.
Yeah. It's the okay. When people say to me, "You're not like all the other Christians I know,"
mm-hmm.
You know, a friend of mine recently had somebody start picking on her, and calling her a bad mother for the stupidest reasons. And she said, and this is what bothered her the most. She's like, she claims to be a Christian. She's not showing any love or compassion. She's just being a bitch. And so what I'm trying to say is that people who claim to have faith but then turn out to be quite as human as everybody else are more damaging to people who have fledgling faith or are considering religion. And they're the people that you look at them and you go, you're a hypocrite, a Pharisee, like you are just the worst example. I can't believe that you call yourself a Christian. You're not a Christian. and I'm never going to go to this religion because all of you are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was my point. That's all I'm trying to say, is that if somebody claims to be a believer, their turning is more damaging to those around them than somebody who has no faith at all. To me. And I think to other people who are, new in the faith, as it were.
I think tactically.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, and also because if you change the people who already believe, they can go out and start, attacking. If you're trying to pull souls away from heaven, and that is the goal.
Why though?
Well, if
that's
you
a whole
no.
different
So
conversation, but
this is the theory behind it. So whether you believe in the theory or not, this is the theory behind this. If you're trying to pull souls away, one soul at a time, maybe even, you don't need to focus on the ones that have already damned themselves. That's what they're thinking. Now, I don't necessarily go along with this, but this is the theory behind why demons wouldn't be going after somebody who already does not believe, and they wouldn't be appearing to somebody who already does not believe. Except sometimes they do, because I know that there are people who don't believe in any kind of God who end up possessed.
well, here's my
Why?
thing is,
I don't know.
even the believer who gets possessed, I don't see what practical purpose it has.
Okay. None of this is practical.
No, I mean, even in the religious sense of bartering souls or trapping souls or trying to get souls or pulling souls away. Like, in my, and this is just my human brain.
Sure.
Which means I can't think completely spiritually because no one can.
Yep.
But someone's possessed by a demon. The demon does weird shit. How does that affect anyone's soul? Like, the demon does something in someone's body. I don't think God then goes, oh, well, you shouldn't have let that happen. Maybe he does, but just in my brain that doesn't compute to go, oh, you did some sketchy shit while that demon was in you. You're going to hell.
Yeah. I don't know. So okay, I know where you're getting confused. You cannot be possessed unless you've extended an invitation, according to the church. So there is no.
How far does that invitation go, though? Because, like,
it's very, very loose.
'cause
So
it
doesn't have to be even something extremely overt.
right? Because, like, the
can be-
1906, you had the Avert case where she made a pact with the devil.
Yeah.
Goody Proctor, I saw her.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, she was asking for that one. Why? I don't know. So
then
there's
you have
also
the next case where it's like, oh, his aunt gave him a Ouija board. When his aunt died, he tried to contact her through the Ouija board and got possessed.
Yeah, the act of using the Ouija board is an invitation.
Is it though?
Yeah, no, it is. According to you're asking why in the church, that is an active invitation. That is an opening. You are opening yourself up to this.
I know according to the church, it can be an invitation, but I'm just saying on a human level, is it though?
I can see why you don't believe that would be, but
I mean,
that is where they say it is. So like that is the
because I can buy it at Toys R Us is why I don't believe it.
Well, I mean, but that doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it kind of means it's.
You don't need to buy one at Toys R Us. You can make one with paper and a cup.
Mm-hmm.
It's the act of trying to contact the dead that opens you up to being possessed. That's what the church thinks. So, I don't completely disagree with that, because some people are so open and susceptible that, in my opinion, that's all that's really needed. And then there's other people like you who could use a Ouija board all damn day long, and it wouldn't do a single thing because you just are not susceptible.
I did. It didn't do shit.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Except when I moved it to freak my friend out.
yes. But see, there was this TV show that I was watching, and the psychic, or it was a question and answer with a psychic and a cop that she investigated. Go with me, and she put it best when she's like, "Are you ever?" The interviewer asked if she was ever concerned that her partner would be possessed, and she's like, "No, he's not even kind of open. He won't. He cannot be. They can't just attach themselves to him because they won't. It wouldn't matter." And my experience has been to confirm that. I agree that is important. But
that's the other thing
we're coming at it from a different angle.
But yeah, when I was a kid, I was dumb and I was open to these things. Not saying open people are dumb. I'm saying
no, but
I believed hard.
Just because you believe doesn't mean you're open to it.
Correct.
I don't mean open as in you have an open mind.
Right.
Yeah. That's not my definition.
Which I'm not trying to be harsh here, but I do feel like that's a cop out.
I mean, okay.
I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it feels like a cop out to me that for something to happen very specifically to only certain people, it's weird,
Yeah,
like,
but not everything is universal.
I know, which I completely get. At the same time, gravity is.
Yeah.
Language is. Laughter, universal. Every human laughs. So to say something's true and then to say, but only to a very small percentage of people, I can see, yes, that is entirely possible. But then to attach something to that as big as religion and afterlife, it seems weird and mean.
I hear you. I mean, there's a genetic component. I think they've proven that some people are just genetically predisposed to not be religious.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I get to the point where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like some people, very few people compared to the rest of the world have green eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing. Some people do. Some people, they are born with this. And,
yeah.
Some people are open spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly vulnerable and gullible spiritually. And some people are just never going to be that gullible.
Yeah.
And you're just one of those people. No matter what you try and convince your brain, you're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. So I don't know what to tell you except that you are not open to the experience.
Fair.
Now, if you took psychedelic drugs, you might be able to trip yourself into it. That's a possibility.
I don't think I could.
Well,
it's possible.
I'm gonna say it's a possibility. I'm not gonna say that wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Which I'm not saying it definitely wouldn't
happen. The way
happen.
that you would get there is for you to use drugs to get to that psychedelic experience, because that is something that's going, and there's no explanation for why that happens. We have no idea.
Have you heard about that, by the way?
What?
Like, there's two theories going on right now that include psychedelics. One, religion's based off of it.
Mm-hmm. I have heard that.
I know you've heard that one. Mm-hmm. And I can totally see that being true, by the way.
Yeah.
And two, psychedelics may have been part of the cause of our brains doubling in size as quickly as they did.
No way, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I heard that one today. That there's that is a theory. It was also us finding fire, cooking meat, getting more nutrients that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think nutrition had a big role to play in it as well.
I'm sure it did, but now it may have been psychedelics as well.
That's pretty funny. Okay. Huh. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm see what they come up with in the next few decades and we'll work that out.
Well, that's the other part. It's like the only reason I don't go hardcore, or the only reason I don't hardcore go for Catholics on this issue would be, and this is one of my big religious problems, is human history. We've been around, what, a couple million years? And then we started making societies, what, 12,000 years ago? Where we actually started making monuments and then towns and then things like that effect. But then the answer only came 2,000 years ago.
I am just less inclined to believe that societies could not have existed before and that we've just lost all trace of them.
I mean, you mean before 12,000 years?
Yes.
I'm sure they could have, because like I said, it's a 1,000,000 or 2,000,000 year window before that.
Yeah.
But our first documented case of some kind of technology or society advancement is 12,000 years ago. We could have had cities before that, but what I'm saying is...
I'm also unclear that, although, I mean, the written down record is roughly dated, but I'm unclear that the oral tradition, and I do believe that oral traditions used to be passed down pretty carefully. Like they would make them memorize it, and they would have to be, like done so that you could faithfully retell it exactly. That used to be a thing. That tradition is not a lot significantly older. So, we have evidence of massive flooding. We have flood myths all over the world in all different cultures, but the flooding was 12,000 years ago. So,
the Ice Age.
If Noah is the flood story and the flood story really happened, well, we're dating that at 12,000 years ago. So you have a record of Noah, which is post-creation story.
Right.
So how much older does it actually go?
Well, I mean, even if you go with creation story, the creation story is broken. Yeah. Fundamentally broken. Because, like, the earth is created and then the sun.
Yeah, well.
And if we're going by literal days, you need the sun.
Yes. No, I understand. I know there are flaws with the whole story. I got that.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I'm not saying that's why I dismiss. I'm just saying if we're going creation story, that's broken.
Yeah.
It needed an edit.
Yeah, I understand, but that was their understanding at that point of what was going on. So
true, but even with the flood story, we have what was it, Gilgamesh before? That had a good chunk of the stories of the Bible already.
Yeah. I mean, there's, it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating. And, I really hope my mother doesn't listen to this one because I don't want to hear her rant and rave at me. But I don't think that you have to, dismiss one. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, it doesn't have to be, to me, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't, it just doesn't bother me that there are inconsistencies, because of course there's inconsistencies. We're human. We're not perfect. So there's not going to be a perfect record of anything. And things are going to get a little bit cockeyed in the retelling. So.
Yes, but that's where it all gets really broken in a way.
You don't have to, if you have to go on the premise that something must be absolutely true in order to be valid, then you've lost the meaning of it. There can be value in stuff that is not literally true, but is true in the general sense of it.
Ah,
So,
yeah, I'm not saying the Bible needs
if
to be
if
literally true on every single page for it to be valid.
yeah. So like
And I'm not saying
you
it's
know,
valueless.
Abraham not killing Isaac doesn't need to have literally happened for it to still be a good lesson that you maybe should just not sacrifice your son. I mean, there's more to that story, but you know what? Like, that's the one I can think of right now, and that's not really.
That's really a bad example
It's
because
really a bad example. I'm
because
getting tired.
the lesson of that story was to never question the word.
God. Yes.
And that's a
No, that was a
bad
bad one.
that's a bad example to follow.
Yes.
I hate
Okay,
to say
so
it, but
let's go to we'll go to Adam and Eve.
Hmm.
So when you the more you learn, the more your eyes are opened up to the world, the more innocence you lose, the more vulnerable you know you are to death. Not that death was not there, but when you are a child and you don't know, you don't fear death in the same way.
I think
And you don't limit yourself and act accordingly.
I think you did
So it's a good
2,000
and a
years
bad.
ago.
What?
I think you might have 2,000 years ago.
Okay.
Feared death as a child.
I see, but kids
Old
don't
age was 30 then.
No, but I mean, like, kids don't understand those sorts of things. There are some things that are hardwired into them, but they can't understand what death is because they do not have the brain capacity or the maturity to really get that.
But when
So,
death
as
is more of
a
a constant.
metaphor, no, but as a metaphor, as the more you learn,
Mhm.
the more you realize how vulnerable you are.
Yeah, which
So that is a metaphorical truth that doesn't necessarily have to be a literal truth with eating from the tree of knowledge.
yes, and as a metaphor, it does work. I'm just saying, kids, I think 2,000 years ago had more of an understanding of death than kids today. Was all I was
Maybe.
getting
I don't think that 3-year-olds did. They just don't.
I don't think 3-year-olds understand the
That's what I'm
metaphor.
talking about. No, but they wouldn't because
Yeah.
you have not yet bitten from the knowledge, as it were. You don't understand yet.
Yeah,
You don't have
that's
the
why I
knowledge,
said
therefore you don't know how vulnerable you are.
it works
That's
as
what
a
I'm saying.
metaphor. I'm just saying a 10-year-old understood death more than a 10-year-old does today.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's you don't get it until you hit a certain age.
Yeah, I'm just saying the time scale has been skewed. Was all I was getting at.
Okay, which is fine, but so the basics of there's knowledge in there that's extraordinarily valuable, even if it was not literally true. And I might believe that it's literally true, but I can see the value otherwise, even if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Jesus, most people who don't believe in him still are like, yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. That's a good example for a life well lived.
For the most part.
The most part.
He did some dickish things. Not a lot, but
yeah.
there was a few instances. But yeah, I think for me, I think the Bible, if you boil it down to anything, they nailed the golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the best common sense thing for anyone to go by. That's the one rule you need.
That is.
And it is in there. So props to them.
Yes. So yeah, anyway, it's back to exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
I think that anybody that messing around with things you may not completely understand, and I don't think that this subject is completely understood, is something that should be done carefully and with consideration, and not as a game bought at Toys R Us for $12.99.
But it is, I think.
Well,
I mean, the Ouija board is. It's literally a piece of plastic.
Yes.
There's no
literally a piece of plastic.
There is no spiritual connotation to that.
But if spirits can be attached to anybody, as you were saying earlier, that why couldn't it attach itself to a piece of plastic?
2 main pieces of plastic.
But how do you know how many spirits there are, or demons, or whatever they are?
Oh, I have no idea.
Exactly.
Demons have a listed number of how many how many evil spirits they control. It's not that many.
Hmm.
Each one has like 150k ish.
So
Can go up to like 300k.
the
It's quite a
some of
bit.
the possession, well, yeah, but some of the possessed people have stated that the demons can be in many places at once, especially the higher level demons.
Yeah. Which that's the
So
ones
if
I
we
would
are
say.
going on the fact that this is true, that would be they could be in many places at one time, and it wouldn't be a restriction for them. And if
That's
they
the
are
other
not physical or spirit, but they are spiritual, then they don't have the restrictions of a body and a place and a time.
See, I've had this really old joke that if hell is real and I'm going there, I have a 5-year plan to become VP. It's a bad joke. But
Joke.
it reflects the idea that hell has a corporate structure.
Mm-hmm.
And the demons
Which
do.
not unreasonable.
I mean, if you go by certain old texts, the demons do have a hierarchy of sorts. Which leads me to like, all right, if they have like all these minor evil spirits, then why are they the ones doing the possessing? That sounds like dirty work that you don't usually get your hands on.
Well, maybe the minor ones are attached to the Ouija boards.
Possibly.
Or the tarot.
They could be opening,
whatever,
They could be holding back the curtain to let the bigger one through. That could work.
Mm-hmm.
This is how my brain works. I like the system. I also want to know demon where they live. Like, where's hell?
They're spirit. They wouldn't live anywhere.
Right, they live somewhere. They have a realm. Hell's a place.
I think spiritual, I would say a different dimension than this one.
I was going to say that. I could go with dimensions. Dimensions are scientifically could be a thing.
Yep. That's a science thing, and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
It's
a miracle.
That would be fascinating if there was just the hell dimension and then the heaven dimension.
Uh-huh. Well, that's one of the things that the people who have had past life experiences, most of them come back and say that they went to heaven, but a couple of them have said that they've gone to a kind of hell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's interesting, and the fascinating part is when they come back and they're a completely different person because of their experience. It's like, that must have been a very intense experience in order for you to completely change personality.
Well,
some people, a near-death experience can be its own changing thing in itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you saw.
What I was going to say is, what experience converts the most people?
I don't know.
I think I do.
Okay.
Prison.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot of finding Jesus in prison.
Yeah? Well, you're left so out of control that it's something that you can hold on to.
Yeah, and then
it gives you a sense of control.
Well, your life is so out of control, and then you're slammed into the most control that can be had.
Mm-hmm.
Very harshly.
Yeah.
I can see how once that kind of change happens, you would be more susceptible to sorting yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
And for religion, as many awful things it does, one of the goods is it does help people sort themselves out.
Yes, it does.
Especially the ones who really need it.
Yeah, I don't even think it's the...
It's not the book, it's the community.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Or something like that, but that's what I meant.
Yeah.
That it's the people involved that end up getting everything effed up.
Which, and the better people within the system know the correct verses to quote. Mm-hmm. And it can help someone out. Mm-hmm. I don't dismiss that.
Yeah, because it's full of a lot of really great advice, even if it's not your cup of tea. It's still got a lot of good to it.
See, that's my safety net is I don't think if there was a God, our brains would be able to understand it.
Yeah.
But I do think if there was a God, there wouldn't be a system in place that would damn like more than half the population because, access, language, born in the wrong time.
I don't. Yeah.
I think it would.
I hear you. I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. I sympathize greatly with what you're saying.
Which I'm not saying anyone has to believe it or should. I still don't think there is a God. But I do think if there is, they won't care if I believed or not. But that's just me.
Well, they might.
They might. And if they do, I don't care.
You might care.
No, my morality surpasses that God.
I don't think, yeah, I don't see this. That's another thing that bothers me is this morality question. It's like you don't have to believe in God to be a good person.
No, not
That's
at all.
just bullshit.
Which, that's what I'm saying, is my morality is too great to believe in a God that would damn someone for not believing.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
As in, if the rapist finds Jesus and then, legit finds Jesus, converts, asks for forgiveness, and gets let into heaven. But the dude who did nothing but good within his life but didn't believe goes to hell. That's an immoral system.
It's a good point. Something to ponder.
Yeah. Just on my human morality, that's immoral. So for it to, and I've heard religious people respond with, yes, but God doesn't have to be human standards. That's fine. I'm not going to believe in that God. That's just me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't have a rebuttal.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So, again, I hope my mother doesn't listen. 'Cause I don't want her hearing from my soul.
Fair.
But I'm perfectly comfortable in my role as I believe and I don't know anything, and I'm still seeking.
Yeah.
So,
Which
doesn't bother me to be there.
Yeah. Which I think that's a good place to be. Just as I'm non-believer, but still seeking. I seek all the truth. I like truth. I look for it
Truth
everywhere.
Is good.
It really is.
Uh-huh.
Which leads us back
That's something Trump is also going to have.
Oh.
I have all the truths, all the best truths.
All the best truths. He may.
He makes it so easy to pick on him.
He does. On the same token, he makes it really hard to pick on him.
Because it's just so pathetic.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's like you can pick on him all day long, but he's still president.
It's true.
He won.
Did it.
Yeah.
He did it. I don't think he meant to do it, but he did it.
I don't think he fully meant to either.
No.
But he did. And
so, yeah.
It's as much fun as I thought it would be.
Fair enough. So, something else about possession is that there's this thing in the Bible, about the sins of the father being visited upon the son 7 times or 7 generations or something like that. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the exact framework of it, though.
So that, and if you look at this as a spiritual thing, now you can look at this another way, and I'll explain it another way. So you say you have a father who is an alcoholic. He ends up being an alcoholic. It's more of a psychological statement that it can take 7 generations for the descendants of that man to repair the damage he did by being an alcoholic.
Okay.
So it's more of like a truth that doesn't have to be a literal truth. Like it's not even that it has to 7 generations, it's that it takes a long time to rebuild and restructure what was broken.
What if?
And I mean, that could not even just be emotional, but that could be financial. It could be a lot of other different things. So, but that also can be if the man, we often think of this, I often think of this as like pedophiles. If you looked at pedophilia as a demonic thing, it's like infecting other children, and it just starts creeping out and infecting more and more and more, and it just keeps propagating itself.
Yeah.
So that would be not to say that that's what it is, but you know what I mean. Like it's a or maybe you don't know what I mean, and I'll have to explain it a different way. Um, it's more of it's something that continues to revisit and can haunt itself. So if you have a demonic possession, there is the possibility that the parent can pass it on to the child.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that is also spoken about.
I don't know if I want to call it a rebuttal. It's not a rebuttal, but
Mm-hmm.
my addition to it would be, suppose that was people grappling with genetics
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing genetics,
Mm-hmm.
but to say that a demon would influence, or that the sins of the father would visit the sins of the son.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically saying some behavior is passed on,
Yes.
which
Which is fine. I'm absolutely comfortable with, that being a behavior that's being passed on rather than demonic possession, as it were. But but my point was, is it says that, and
Mhm.
so it as a possession, if possession is real, that people can end up being possessed not because they were open to the invitation, but because their parents put them in that position
yeah.
and gave them up to that. Because apparently your parents have ownership over your soul or whatever.
What I was about to dive into, I'm glad you went there first. 'Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
So I mean, it's a really weird and creepy thing. So like, I actually think that the truth behind that statement of it's genetics or it's environmental or it's whatever that gets stuck in certain patterns and cycles and behaviors, I think that's absolutely positively true. I mean, we see that happen. Like I have a friend whose mom was married to a ton of different guys and had a ton of different kids with a ton of different people, and the friend's like, I'm never going to do that, and then she did the exact same thing her mother did. And I'm like, well, there you go. I'm like, you see what I mean? Like, even if you say you're going to break it, the actual breaking of it is going to be intensely difficult. And her oldest daughter is, approaching teenage years, and what's going to happen with her? Well, if she ends up repeating her mother and her grandmother's cycle, that is not going to surprise me. It's going to make me sad,
yeah.
but it's not going to surprise me.
No, I mean, and you can see that time and time again, that people fall into the habits of their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's really easy to see that because the way we know people at the moment is genetics plus environment.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're raising a kid, you have 100% genetics and environment
Mm-hmm.
to see the pattern.
Yep.
And it's just sad.
It's very sad.
Well, in some cases. In some cases, it's fun.
In some cases, it's really friggin' interesting. Watching my own kids do this, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Look at you, my little science experiments.
That's what I was just about to get to. It's also positive.
Yeah.
It works in certain cases.
It does.
I think it's just you see it more on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I just yeah. So what does that have to do with possession? Like, I think that, I don't even know. I believe in it, so it's just difficult. I try to be rational, but I just think it's very dangerous if somebody plays around with it, because I think most people are more susceptible than not, and certainly more susceptible than you.
I was gonna say, if more people were more susceptible, I think we'd see it more often. But like genuine things that baffle people, you're kind of hard pressed to come with the top 10 list.
Yeah. Well, I think people are more open and gullible than. I think that there are more people like that than there are people like you who are completely immune to it.
Completely immune, maybe, but to think the majority of the population has
If it's
never.
a spectrum.
If it's a spectrum, yes. I think
I would say it would be a bell curve, like everything else.
Yes, if it's a
You have
bell
people at
curve,
one end, and then people at the other end, and
right.
that's where you get the people who are levitating, and the people who are like, I asked to be possessed, and nothing happens.
Well, that's the other part it's going to come into. What about the people in the middle?
Yeah.
It
Well, I mean,
it's not exactly a coin flip if like the extreme cases are so rare. Then either is the majority not being possessed, or is the majority being possessed but it's not as extreme.
that's a possibility.
Because even if you wanted to go like on a completely psychological level, you can say everyone has their demons,
They do.
and many people are possessed by them.
It's possible that people are not being possessed but being influenced. That's something whispering in your ear telling you you are a loser and the world would be better without you, and all these other things that are, that run through everybody's head, and supposedly that's normal, but what if it's not normal?
Uh,
What if it's
well,
spiritual?
it could be spiritual. I think you've known I went through that for quite some time and then broke that
hmm
habit.
hmm You tune it out. You learn not to hear it, or you do something about it. And I think that's a different solution for everybody.
Mm.
It doesn't work the same for some people. I mean, like, I've had times in my life where it's like I feel like I'm being influenced by things that are not my own head, and I'm not
Well,
crazy, and I'm not suicidal, and
this goes back to that
there are just
separating consciousness thing I was talking about earlier.
mhm.
It's really hard to achieve, but it's a Buddhism thing, I think. It's also
Okay.
transcendental something, I forget, but it's part of meditation. It's kind of the thought like, you are not your thoughts.
Okay.
You are not the voice in your
That's
head.
weird.
It's weird, but
I'm not the voice in my head.
correct. As in,
What is the voice in my head then?
it's you thinking. It's a manifestation of something you're thinking, but it's not you. Because take for instance, think of a pink elephant.
Oh, okay.
Are you a pink elephant?
No.
No. All right. So whatever thoughts in your head, that's not entirely you. It's just a thought.
Okay.
Like I said, it gets really, really weird.
I think you just broke my brain.
But we think of that inner voice as us, but all we're doing is thinking. It's just a thought. So whether you're saying I'm worthless or I'm awesome,
It doesn't. Okay. Doesn't mean that it's us. It's just a thought.
it's just a thought. It's not a manifestation of your consciousness. It's just something you're thinking.
I had a voice in third person tell me that I could kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's not me. Because I wasn't suicidal at all.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that was very overdone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so to me, that was something that was a problem. And so my solution is that I gather around me the people who are faithful, and we pray about it, and the thing goes away, and any negative feelings attached to it go away.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my solution that worked, but it was like that was not my own thought.
Correct.
It did not feel like it was my own thought.
Mm-hmm.
So even saying like it's just my thoughts, it's like this one was not, that was not my thought.
Right.
I didn't think that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that. So that was a very odd experience, and why I'm not choosing to dismiss anything, because I just don't know.
Yeah, which I'm not going to say it wasn't some sort of outside influence. I'm also not going to say it wasn't part of your own brain experience.
Yeah, I don't believe it was, but I accept that it might have been.
Yeah. It's just the it's weird, but like prayer and meditation, really similar.
Oh, hmm. I mean, they're often linked together.
Hmm.
I can't meditate. I do terrible at meditating, but
The only way I can meditate is binaural audio,
hmm.
which is just it's I don't know how to explain that. It's two frequencies playing in different ears,
Mm.
and so the frequencies sort of match up in the middle.
Hmm.
But it's the only way I found that it just interrupts my thoughts.
Okay.
So
That would drive me crazy.
it's an experience. You have to use headphones for it, and different frequencies can kind of trigger different things
Hmm.
in weird ways.
Hmm.
And I don't know. For me, it works for meditation. It's worked for writing before because I just tune everything out.
Interesting.
But that's the only way I've found I can meditate.
Okay.
And I I used to be able to use it for sleep. Like I said, it's just like that system interrupt.
Huh. You know what I want to try sometimes? I'm not remembering what it's called. A sensory deprivation chamber, or maybe like like where you go into a tank and you just
Uh-huh.
float.
That's the correct word. Sensory
Oh,
deprivation chamber.
sweet. I remembered.
Yeah. I want to own one.
Yeah.
I don't want to try it. I want to own it.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to try it before I own it, Like
No,
in my next $1,000,000, I'd rather just, like try it first, because I might be like, I'm just making to-do lists and grocery lists while I'm in here. This is not helpful.
but is it? I mean, even that could be helpful.
Maybe.
Also, once you,
I get annoyed that I couldn't write it down.
well, here's the thing: is like you say that's what would happen, and that would happen for 2 minutes,
Hmm.
and then your brain just has to figure out its next thing.
Yeah. I think it sounds fascinating. I really would love to try it.
Yeah, I would love to try it, and like I said, I would more than likely do it at least once a week. Is why I think I would like to own it, because
Hmm.
I started looking into it more whenever I was swimming every day,
Hmm.
and because that was sort of the same thing, except not quite. Because I was in water, there was no audio other than the
Hmm.
splashing going around. There was, no one to talk to. No one else was there. It was isolated. I was in a room by myself. So I was like, huh, this would be cool if I could just stop swimming and float here and sort my head out. Because all I could do when I was swimming
Yeah.
was think.
Yeah. Hmm.
And my brain really, really likes to think.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to think too, so that's why I find,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a bunch of them near me. I just looked. I can actually go do this.
Oh, you should definitely try it.
I should.
But you should try it for, longer than 5 minutes.
Details.
I think a good 30 minutes would be. I'd like to touch the edge of insanity. I think that's touching the edge.
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
because that's when you get to the point where you can start to figure out that the voice in your head isn't you.
That's true. That could be clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
Think about it like that.
yeah, because basically the sensory deprivation is forced meditation,
Yeah. That's true.
and the longer you're there is just the closer you get to. I want to say, and it sounds really corny, but that's when you start to finally touch truth.
I could use some stillness in my life.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good for you, especially if you found like a saltwater one.
Yeah.
and like
I don't know. I have to look
temperature
into it more.
controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't be cold. No way.
No.
Nope. So we got really off topic again.
Oh yeah, but I don't know. Did we? Because
I don't know.
I think my thing is, I think the demons are in everyone's head.
Okay.
The demons are us.
Which, I mean, doesn't make them any less real or powerful.
No, and it doesn't make them. Doesn't it? It's not least likely to possess people. Like think of a normal, let's just say dude. So we'll go with the stereotype. So
Okay.
a normal dude, maybe slightly off kilter because let's face it, everyone's slightly off kilter.
Sure.
But for the most part, normal. And then he starts dating, the first girlfriend, and then they break up, and then he stalks her.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of bad brain development, bad decision making. Maybe he didn't have a strong father figure of some sort. Maybe, I don't know, what else would bring about stalker behavior.
Yeah. I don't know.
Many things.
Yeah. That's actually one of those things I don't know about psychology.
Yeah.
Not that there isn't many, but that's one of the areas where I'm stronger.
Yeah, I heard a story about a guy who turned into a stalker earlier, is why I brought it up. And he went from he was like a YouTube guy, and he was funny and made comedy videos. And then then this one relationship happened, and he just went off the fucking deep end.
Wow.
So his comedy videos turned into these weird nature videos, and he like made an hour-long documentary playing with plastic dinosaur toys, explaining the relationship and what's going on now with it. Like completely fucking nuts. And she took him to court and blah blah blah, and so he went from comedy kind of normal to just psycho.
Wow.
And to me,
That's crazy.
That's a brain thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you put your entire identity into one person, then it's very easy to be fragile and lose that.
It is, and it is a devastating mental thing. And you could call it a demon.
You could.
You could call him possessed and influenced by this thought that he needs her to be him. And you could say at that point, so where I think it's a brain thing, someone else could very easily say he was weak at that point and was possessed by some other influence.
Well, yeah. I would be more like went off the deep end, but
yeah, but we're going back to that spectrum here.
Yeah, it could be a lot of things. But people pick going to extremes. That's another thing a demon could be. It could be just a cop out.
It really could be, and I think it is.
In some ways, I wouldn't say it in other ways. Like you can have somebody who might believe that they're possessed and is truly mentally ill and not responsible for their behavior and actions because they're just too sick. And I wouldn't say that's a cop out if they want to blame it on the demon or whatever, because
true, but like you do have the case here. This guy was on the list actually. Michael Taylor and his wife Christine lived in a small town in Great Britain called Ossett. I'm probably butchered that. I'm sorry, British people. The couple was very religious and had joined a Christian prayer group led by Marie Robinson. At one meeting in 1974, Christine Taylor accused her husband and Robinson of having an affair, which both people hotly denied. Michael Taylor then spewed obscenities and began acting extremely erratic and out of character, leading witnesses to think that he seemed to be possessed by evil. After months of crazy behavior, Taylor eventually consulted with clergy who performed an exorcism. The exorcism lasted for well over 24 hours, and the priest involved claimed to have removed 40 demons from the man's body. However, before he left, the priest warned him that the demon of murder remained dormant in his soul. Why did he leave? Finish the fucking job. Anyway, as soon as Taylor arrived home, he brutally murdered his wife and their dog. He was later found wandering the streets. He killed the dog and the wife.
Okay.
He was later found wandering the streets covered in blood. At his trial, he was acquitted by reason of insanity.
Well, he'd had a long pattern of being insane. So, not guilty by reason of insanity. Okay. He's still going to be put away.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's...
Let's see, it's at that point where, I mean, there's a Latin phrase for this. The devil made me do it. I forget what the Latin is, but I was using that. I think I'd put it in my first book, Conception, or I used it in the marketing materials, one of the two. Mm-hmm. But this idea of I did it because of the devil, very old idea.
It is, but I think that one of the best quotes about the devil is probably one of the sagest quotes about the devil from The Usual Suspects. That the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think that even that if that is not a literal truth, it's still a truth about evil and the nature of evil itself. Is that the people who are the most dangerous are the ones who can convince you that they're not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just don't know, but I don't want to dismiss it out of hand, and I hope that if anybody listening to this, just does not pick up a Ouija board or draw one out on a napkin in a restaurant to amuse yourself, because...
I was going to say, would you even need the napkin? Couldn't you just be like, open your phone to Messenger and be like, dead, start typing?
How would that work? Because I can't get my phone to work with my fingers. So how would the dead do this?
I don't know. How the dead move
If you told me
plastic on
the
a
dead were
board.
more capable with technology than I am, I would probably believe that.
Fair enough.
Because, yeah.
Oh,
my
no.
mother knows how to use her iPhone better than I know how to use my iPhone, and she can't even use a universal remote.
Fair. I mean, even if you didn't do... I mean, you could do your phone. You could do your mouse with your screen. Point at the letters.
You could.
Basically, everything's a Ouija board.
Everything could be a Ouija board. I think it's just your intent.
Also, everything's a scrying mirror.
Yeah. I just don't want to even think about it.
It's just black mirrors everywhere. Great show, by the way.
I don't know what show you're talking about.
Black Mirror.
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, you're right. I only watched the first episode, but it was good.
You have to watch more.
I have to have time to watch TV. I don't have time to watch TV.
You can find an hour every so often.
Yeah.
It gets so much better. Like, the first episode's great, but yeah, it gets better. I don't know.
I have different priorities. Like, Ken Burns just came out with his documentary on Vietnam, and I'm watching that because that is really freaking fascinating.
Well,
because, you know, I don't live all that far from D.C. I've been to the Vietnam Wall. Going to the Vietnam Wall is an extremely intense experience for me, even though I didn't lose anybody personally. There's so much emotion there because it's still so recent and fresh and so anger inspiring that it's very intense. The energy around there is very intense. So, which is something.
No
that I can't explain, but
opinion
it
on
is.
Vietnam.
Yeah, it's an experience. If anybody,
I
but they
don't.
should watch that documentary. It's on PBS. You can watch it for free.
I don't have TV.
It's online.
Oh. I don't know PBS is online.
PBS is online. Oh my god.
How would I know PBS is online? Like
Why would
PBS,
you not know? Because
because
that's how you watch Call the Midwives.
I don't know.
Oh god. There's no hope for you.
PBS was not a thing where I lived growing up.
Okay, well PBS is got, like you can watch the shows right now. So
Okay, that's cool. Because, like I said, growing up, there was no PBS. It's a thing I heard about like once, but I lived
that
in
is so sad.
I lived in the country. We got NBC, and if the weather was good, Fox.
That's so sad.
And it was like that until I was like 15 when we got a giant satellite dish. And then there was, 500 channels.
With nothing on.
With nothing on.
Yeah.
The greatest thing about the 500 channel things, and because it was a huge satellite dish, you could get on satellite dishes that were used by like news people.
Mm-hmm.
And you would just find them standing there, staring at the camera, waiting to go on air. And it was mesmerizing and weird because they're just sitting there. And then like every 2 or 3 minutes, they would say something to, like, I guess the producer, like, okay, Joe. And then someone would come in and, fix any hair that got out of place, and then they would leave. And they would just sit there, and then they'd look over the notes. And I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck are you doing? And the answer was nothing. They were just there. They weren't talking to anyone. They weren't, like, preparing in any way other than you would hear, like, a throat clear every so often.
That is awesome.
It was fascinating.
Okay.
And weird. And it was at that point where you would hope someone got possessed. Because then it would break the monotony of watching them.
It would be something.
Like, you would think if they were susceptible, that would be the time. Because they're just sitting there. It was so sad.
Bored.
Yeah.
So bored.
Like, it was at that moment where I'm like, holy shit, you thought this would be more interesting. Like, being a news person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you thought they should be doing something, but no, they just sit there or stand there until it's time.
It sucks.
Like, I assume now they're playing on their phones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because this was way
Way
ago.
back.
Yeah. Like
Because you're old.
Yeah. Like I said, big satellite dish.
Yeah.
Which
That's awesome.
that's not even a thing anymore, I don't think.
Little satellite dishes.
Yeah, they're everywhere still. But the big
Yes.
ones you don't see quite so often.
Nope.
That thing's still sitting out in that field, too. I always think, I was like, could I use that for something? Could I, like, beam something into space? That'd be awesome.
You could recycle it.
Yeah. I always come up with something
Cash
like,
for metal.
yeah, well, that's boring. I was thinking of, like, some steampunk idea where I made, like, a ray gun out of it.
Good luck with that.
Nah, I'd probably get in trouble.
Uh-huh.
But it was an idea nonetheless. It was also one of those like mesh ones, so it wasn't like a solid dish, so you couldn't do as many cool things with it.
Oh, can't go sledding down a hill in it.
Oh, it was way too big for
Like
that.
We used to use cardboard boxes to go sledding down hills.
We used to
Old
use
school fun.
we used to use cardboard boxes to go sledding by holding the rope tied to the back of the four-wheeler.
Wow. That's creative.
Well, like
That was a nice way of putting it, right?
yeah, Well, look,
Okay.
that was safer than going down the hills we had because the hills were like 70-degree angles.
Okay. No, I mean we had those too. They were really steep, but I mean they didn't. They would like level out because it was development. So
All
you
right.
know
Mine,
they leveled everything out.
it was like a 7-foot drop at a very steep angle into the ditch. So it was like down a very slight curve and then up.
Hmm.
It would have
Okay.
just been a wipeout.
Yeah.
The four wheeler was safer.
All right.
And we were
The boxes would
kids.
get shredded really fast though.
It took longer than you would think.
I would expect like a couple minutes,
Oh,
and then it
no.
would be toast.
Nah, they lasted quite a bit.
You must have had the really good boxes then, because we
It-
only had the cheap moving boxes.
Okay. Yeah, it was pretty thick, and it was more ice than snow.
Oh, so no, we did this in the dirt.
Oh, no.
Because Southern California, there's no snow. There's not even any frost. Like, I made it to Virginia for college and thought that if my windshield iced over or frosted over, that I could spray it down with the hose in order to clear it off.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yes. The first time I explained that theory to my friend, he looked at me like, "You are the dumbest blonde I have ever met." What the hell? Uh-huh. So anyway,
Yeah.
I completely turned myself into a California ditz there, but
Fair.
never encountered snow, so it's not like I knew.
Yeah. Well, like in the 80s in East Texas, winter actually snowed and froze over. It froze over more than snow stuck.
Hmm.
I remember like twice snow sticking long enough to like make a snowman
Hmm.
that melted later that day.
Yeah, well, details.
Yeah. But, that was the 80s. It doesn't happen anymore that often.
No.
It freezes over, and then like 5 years later, you might see snow again.
Yeah. It's sad. And we are way off the topic now, so we should get to
We are.
wrapping this up.
Yeah. Demons, possession, sort of real, sort of not.
Let's hope it's not real.
I said,
Let's just hope it's not real.
I think it, like most things, the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Where I think it's demons, but it's not evil spirits. I'm just fucking with language at this point.
You kind of are, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And since I have done the same thing through this conversation, I understand.
Yeah.
So you play with the language to find a truth in the middle
Mm-hmm. And
of kinds.
and I think the best thing to take away with it would be, true or not, it's in your head.
Hmm.
And for better or worse, we are the wardens of our head.
That's scary. The warden of my head thought you could get rid of snow off of your car with a hose.
That's just a
So-
learning experience. You have to go through the learning experience.
If I could have gotten
Look,
a hose to work, I would have cracked the windshield.
yeah, but when I was a kid, and this isn't nearly the same thing because I was like 5 or something, but my mom or my grandmother, someone was out planting the garden for the year because that was the childhood I had. So I ran inside and grabbed my bag of Cheetos because I wanted a Cheeto tree.
That is adorable.
I planted them too. Shit didn't grow. I was mad. I was a kid, man. I didn't know where Cheetos
You
came
should
from.
have gotten your Cheeto tree.
I would have been so psyched. Just go outside, shake the tree. Would have been amazing.
That would have been awesome.
Learning experiences.
I don't miss Cheetos exactly.
Do it.
Yeah. I don't miss Cheetos. I don't miss Cheetos exactly because I don't remember what they taste like. But I remember liking them and having the orange gum on my hands.
Like, I had them not too long ago. I don't miss them at all. The older you get, I've learned this the hard way. The older you get, the crap food really starts to taste like crap, and I don't understand that. There needs to be some study on that. Man, when you're a kid, you can eat Little Debbie, and it's the most amazing thing in the world. But once you hit like 35 and you grab the same damn snack, and it's like, it's not that good.
It doesn't taste good.
No.
No, it just doesn't.
It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where that comes from. Oh no, science.
I don't know.
Get on that.
We're off topic again.
Also, demons. Demons are
and
sugar.
We're squirreling.
There.
Demons are sugar.
I,
Yeah,
I linked it back.
that works. I can agree to that.
And with that.
All right. See you next week.
All right, later.
Bye.